Hello everyone, welcome back to Humble Acres. My name's Jordan, and in this video we're going to be working on my Ford 8N. Except it's not mine. It's the one that I sold to a neighbor that's fairly close by, and unfortunately I actually lost most of the footage of the start of this video. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the tractor. So I sold it, I don't know, a few months or 5 months or so after I got my Kubota, and I just wasn't using it anymore and didn't need it, so I sold it to a neighbor. So he's had it for about a year now, and right when he bought it, he went and put brand new tires on the front of it, and then he took it home and it sat for basically a year up until like a month or two ago. And he went to start it and it wouldn't start at all. He took it to a local shop close by here and it sat there for about a month and they were unable to figure out what was wrong with it. So he actually stopped by the other day and asked me if I would take a look at it. So I did. I had 3D printed, it has a fuse block in it, and I had 3D printed one of those. It's actually this right here. So I had 3D printed this cardboard, or whatever you want to call it, wood, fiberboard material. I 3D printed one of those because I was too cheap to actually buy one. And then I moved the resistor and the studs over to that. But that had completely melted on, so one of these studs right here where the resistor mounts was completely melted through. So it had gotten pretty hot. So I'm like, well, I had a problem with that block before too, with the 3D printed version, because it's just plastic and it can melt fairly easily. One of the screws had come loose for me, so I tightened that back up and that worked fine. It was actually in the video of when I bush mowed the whole field. It just died on me in the middle of the field. So we ordered a new one of these fuse blocks for it, and I went over there and put it on, and it still wouldn't start. I was a little confused. It seemed kind of odd to me. He just said, well, I smelled a lot of fuel coming out of the exhaust. He had been choking it and starting it or trying to start it a bunch. He just said that we should just leave it sit. He'll come back over and hopefully it'll clear up. All the fuel will evaporate out of it and it'll start right up. I'm like, yeah, that's a possibility. So that's what we did. We left it, and it had been like 2 or 3 days. And then he showed up another morning at my house and he said that he couldn't get it started. He asked if I could just bring it over here and get it fixed because he was sick of it sitting over there and they weren't doing anything with it. So we went over there and we hooked it to his truck, pulled it back here, and I learned after looking at it that this is the resistor block that we had just put in it. And you can see there how it's all burnt up and the coil is broken half. So when he was over there trying to start it when I wasn't there, he said it kind of started smoking a little bit and the coil got really hot. And I'm like, what is happening with this? I was wondering if like something was grounding out or what. So I got it back here, he left, and I started looking into it, digging into it a little bit. I printed off a 12 volt conversion wiring diagram, because I had done a 12 volt conversion on it when I owned it, and I had swapped the coil out with this coil here. This is a 12 volt conversion coil. It's a 12 volt coil, but the key thing to know is this one, I bought it with the 12 volt conversion kit, and this is internally resisted. I didn't realize that at the time. And in that wiring diagram that I printed out, it actually had an additional resistor in line after this one. So what happens is the ignition comes into here and then comes out of the other side of this resistor straight to this terminal on the coil. And in the wiring diagram, it had another resistor between this post and this post. It had another one in here. And I didn't realize that. So this is the one I had on when it died on me out in the field. And I took it off thinking it was bad, and replaced it with this one. This one I bought at my local tractor supply store, and it is not internally resisted, and that is a big problem. So you need to add another resistor in line to in between these, or else this one gets too much current going through it and it burns up. But I didn't realize that until I was testing them. And this one tested fine with the internal resistance, and this one tested not fine. And it actually got so hot that it melted, or got this, it changed the color on this little spring and like collapsed it, so it didn't really work anymore. So that's what I learned. And I actually kept this one when I took it off. That's why I still have it, because I thought it was actually still good, which it tested fine. But then I think I go over this in the following footage. So I think that's everything that got lost anyway. So I'm sorry that I lost it. That's the first footage I think I've ever lost, but I have no idea what happened to it. So anyway, let's get on with the video. I got the new original resistor for this. This is the old one, but I already got it replaced in here. So you can see right here, I got the new one put in, all hooked up. And the battery's also hooked up. The only problem is it still won't start. So I still smell a bunch of fuel when I'm trying to start it. And the bowl here looks wet. So I think the float might be sticking as well, which it's done before. I don't remember if I turned this off or not. It is turned off. Alright, the fuel is turned off. But there is fuel in the bowl, but the float does get stuck occasionally, so that could be a problem. What I think happened when I had the other coil in there, it may have ruined the condenser in the distributor. So I'm going to take the coil back off and take the cap off the distributor and just test everything. I guess I could take a spark plug out and see if that's getting sparked. That's probably the easiest thing to do, because if that's getting sparked, then it should run, and it's probably just the carburetor or something then. Why don't we just try pulling a spark plug and seeing if we can get spark that way. Alright, so I got a spark plug out here. I'm gonna ground it out on the manifold here and see if we get a spark. I'm not seeing any spark at all. Alright, so let's take the distributor apart and see if we can figure something out in there. How it should test is the chest, or the body of the condenser is the ground. This is the power, where the power goes in. So put power on, set to ohms, and it should slowly go up. So that works, and then you can switch it to discharge it. Should slowly go down, or I guess technically it'll show it going up. And then you can switch it, and it should do the same thing again. So I believe this one is working just fine. So this isn't the problem. I guess we'll move on to the points and see how those look. So all I've got to say is don't buy a Ford 8N. Get a newer one with a side distributor if you're going to buy one. These front distributor ones are such a pain to work on because there's just no room in there and you can't see anything. I guess it's probably just easier to take the distributor off, but I just really didn't want to do that, so I don't know. I don't know. They're good tractors and everything, but this is just such a pain to work on. I hate it so much. So I took the distributor off because it was just a pain in the butt, and I lost this screw right here. Found it in the grass underneath the tractor, so got the condenser back on, but I was looking at the points here, and it's going to be really hard for you guys to see it, but they're actually worn down or probably melted from not having the resistor on there correctly. And yeah, I don't know if the gap's right, but the points are definitely worn or melted down quite a bit. Alright, so the point gap on this is supposed to be 0.015. And I got that right here. And if we turn this so the point's open, so that's pretty much the widest right there that they open. It's not even close to being wide enough of a gap. So that's probably the problem. It's only about half the gap it's supposed to be. So I might just try widening this out a little bit, because there's a good chance that, no, that's loose. So that's probably not helping. Nope, not enough. Wow, it was really off. This was probably the problem. Almost guaranteed. It's still not enough. Wow, that was way too tight of a gap. That seems pretty much perfect right there. So we'll tighten this down, because it was definitely not tight before. And that should be problem solved. That's more than double of what it was before, so I think that's probably going to solve our problem. So I think I'm going to get this all put back together and hope and pray that that fixes it. I also noticed that somebody had taken this apart and dropped this down below and never put it back on, so that goes on there as like a little cover. So I want to make sure that gets put back on as well. The cap and rotor are brand new, so not a problem there. We got a good coil on here. So let's get this all put back on and give it a little test. Distributor, cap, rotor, coil, all of it's back on and hooked up. So now let's see if we have some spark. Let's see if we get some spark here. Still not seeing any spark. That's a little crazy. Alright, well, after much troubleshooting, the old coil that I had that is internally resisted, it tests bad now. So I don't know if it was a fluke that it tested okay, or when I got power to it, it stopped working, but it's no good anymore. I actually hooked the other one back up that's not internally resisted, and I was able to get spark out of the points. So I don't think this one's actually good though, because it didn't test right, and the little spring on here got so hot that it doesn't spring anymore. So we're not using that one either. I went and bought another one at my local parts store. This one is not internally resisted either, but they also had the resistor. So we're just going to put this in line, and that should solve a lot of problems. And then if somebody down the road has to replace the coil again, most likely they're going to get one that is not internally resisted, because almost all the ones, actually all the ones that I've seen in the stores are not internally resisted. The one that I had that was, I actually did buy in a kit in the 12 volt conversion, and that's how I got this one. So I believe they do sell the internally resisted one on Steiner Tractor, but don't quote me on that. So anyway, we're going to get this new coil on, we're going to get all the distributor put back together, get it put back on the tractor, and then find a place for this other resistor and hook it up in line. Once again, we got the new coil on, got the distributor back on, cap, rotor, all that's hooked up, the wiring's done. The original resistor's on here. I got a new wire coming out of here to the other resistor right here, and then it comes out of there to the coil. So now it should work. If this doesn't work, I don't know. I'm giving up at this point because it's ridiculous. What we need to do is put the ground, or the negative, back on the battery. When you turn the key on, make sure it's not in gear, and then we can hold this spark plug here and press the starter. And with any luck, it will have spark. Let's see what happens. It has spark. Who would have thought? Holy cow. Alright, let's get all the spark plugs back in and fire it up. Alright, let's see if this thing will fire. I put the toolbox back in there. So let's hope it fires. I assume it will. I'd be amazed if it didn't. Turn the fuel on. Watch it fire. Keys on, in neutral. Oh, we are in road gear. Going real fast. Runs good though, just how I remember it. The one thing I really liked about this tractor is that it never felt like it was going to tip over, because the wheels are out so far and it sits so low to the ground. It's just really nice. Still runs perfect. I knew it would. This tractor's always run good when it's had spark. Turn the fuel off. But yeah, it's a great little tractor, honestly. There's no reason you should need to work on it anymore, honestly, now that I got all the resistors and everything fixed on there. So whoever buys this tractor is gonna have a nice tractor for a long time, because it's never used oil. It always has run so good. It treated me very well, especially with the 12-volt conversion. That was really nice for in the winter. So yeah, it's a really nice tractor. Honestly, if the brakes worked, which I could fix them, that's possible. I think all it needs is new axle seals and hubs, because the hubs are where the oil seal is, and there's a groove in them. So if you get new hubs on both sides and replace the seals, they would probably be fine. Well, you'd have to replace all the brake stuff too and clean it up, but it would probably work just fine. But I honestly, with buying all the FJs and stuff, I have no extra money right now. It's been pretty tight and a little stressful since I bought those, until I can get the other FJs sold, which I'm really just waiting on the title now. A little spoiler is I got it running and driving, so that video will be coming up. But and you can see this in the background too, another little teaser. Got that done and driving with new tires. So there's like 3 videos I think that I have already done and edited right now, but I'm just waiting on uploading them or releasing them. I'm trying to go back and forth between tractor stuff, acreage stuff, and FJ stuff, because it seems like every time I post an FJ video, I lose a few subscribers and then gain some, and the subscriber level stays the same. It's a little ridiculous, but that's how YouTube is. If you stick to one thing on your channel, it goes great. But if you do a variety of things on one channel, the people that watch your channel, if you do something different at all, they just unsubscribe and you're done. And it's a little annoying because I just like doing what I like doing. So I've thought about creating more channels for like just FJ stuff, just tractor stuff, just acreage stuff, but it just gets to be a headache, and then I'm not uploading videos as often on each channel. So I'm still only going to be able to do a video a week, and when I'm uploading to two or three different channels, there's going to be a big gap between videos, and that's not good either. So I'm leaving it one channel. That's how I like it. Makes it easier for me, and I just got to stop looking at the subscriber count, because it gets annoying when you just stare at it, which I don't usually do, but I know, like, I do look at like how the videos do when I release them, and the last few have been pretty bad, so we'll see. But that's it for this tractor. You may or may not see it again, but I'm probably not going to buy it back, even though the guy said I could buy it, but I really don't need it. It does make for a nice bush mowing mower because it can go under anything and it's really nice, but yeah, I just don't have the money right now. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.